Metropolitan State University is celebrating 50 years of championing access to higher education in Minnesota. Our first 50 years, Metropolitan State Oral History Project, produced by Metro State University in partnership with the Other Media Group, is a 4-part podcast series featuring first-hand accounts of experiences and stories from Metro State alumni, current and retired staff and faculty, and community members over the past 50 years. This podcast was made possible in part by the people of Minnesota through a grant funded by an appropriation to the Minnesota Historical Society from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Any views, findings, opinions, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent those of the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota Historical Society, the Minnesota Historic Resources Advisory Committee, or Metropolitan State University. Today's conversation focuses on immigrant and refugee communities at Metropolitan State University with alumni Awo Ahmed, a 2011 graduate, Anissa Hajimumin, a 2010 graduate, Lucky Lee, a 2016 graduate, and Kee Yang, a 2017 graduate.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Emily Seddon. I'm the Development Director at Metropolitan State University. And thank you for agreeing to be part of our oral history project. So we invited some recent Metro State graduates to join us today to talk about Metro State's relationship to the Minnesota's immigrant and refugee communities and how their experiences were shaped at Metro State. And so welcome, everyone. And if we can go around and introduce ourselves, Kee, I'd love it if you'd start.
Thanks, Emily. My name is Kee Yang. I'm a graduate of Metropolitan State. In 2017 is when I graduated with my undergraduate degree in MIS, which is for Management Information Systems. And then in 2020, I graduated with my master's in MIS at Metropolitan State University also. And lastly, I'm still a current DBA student here at Metropolitan State University.
My name is Lucky Lee. I'm a graduate of 2016. I got a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from Metro State. Currently, I'm on the board of directors for the Alumni Association. And right now, I'm currently working at an oil refinery as a laboratory analyst. And, the degree helped me get to that position.
Hi, my name is Awo Ahmed. I am also an alumni 2011 at Metropolitan State University. I did my undergrad, I did biology. And then I currently also work with the University of Minnesota to do community health research. I'm on their advisory board and management council board at the CTIS Center. I'm also an employee here at Metropolitan State University as well at the Institute for Community Engagement and Scholarship.
My name is Anissa Hajimumin. I joined Metro State in 2007.
We know that every student comes to Metro State with a unique story all their own. And so I'd love for everyone to share just a little bit more about your experience at Metro State and what that journey looked like. Who were you before you came to Metro State? What was your time at Metro like? And where has it really helped you in your life?
So I started my educational journey through Metro State as just an incoming freshman, fresh out of high school. Didn't know what to do yet with my education path, and so Metro State was an easy choice for me because living in the East Side, driving past 94, Metro State is prominent when you drive there, and so going through that, somehow it just made me feel like that's where I'm going to go. And so out of high school, that's where I only applied. it is not to say I didn't have my struggles. I think every student has their struggles. So at that time, I was kind of working full time for the state of Minnesota, and then trying to become a full time student, and it was hard juggling both of that as a young professional. Through all the negative and the positive, we become much better, and we learn to do things that help us succeed in life. And so some of the stuff that I took at Metropolitan State University is just how diverse the university is. And so these are the things that I liked at Metro State, and I think that these are some of the things that you don't get to experience it elsewhere. Working with people with that come from all walks of life, in all levels of the professional field. Some of my favorite memories during my graduate courses or during my master's degree, I had the chance to join with the Metro Analytics Club and actually compete. I don't need to go to Carleton School. I don't need to go to University of Wisconsin just to get that same quality education. I think earning a degree for me really is about a stepping stone towards my goal, and I would love to teach at Metropolitan State University sometime in the near future and give back, just like how some of the professors gave back to me.
For me, I actually started at Metro State to get my bachelor's degree, but before that, I was going to Century College, and I got my X-ray degree. I was in the radiology technology program there. I found myself not to be like the best student. I guess after I graduated with my X-ray degree, with that program, it's a 2-year program, and you have to go do clinicals in the hospital and things like that. My last day, I'm like, oh yes, I'm finally done. And I'm like, look back at those 2 years, and I'm like, yeah, those 2 years were pretty bad. Like, it was rough, But then I was like, well, if I could do that, I could probably continue and get my bachelor's degree. And so I'm like, okay, well, I want to continue my schooling. My professors at Century actually recommended Metro State because they would actually take some of the radiology credits and actually use that for my credits at Metro State as well. A lot of other schools, they don't do that because the classes are too specialized. For me, I'm like, well, that's another year or two of classes I wouldn't have to take if I went to Metro State. And so I applied, and the funny thing is, I actually started working at Metro State before I even attended there as a student. Well, if I want to learn about science and chemistry and stuff, the best way to do it is just to go there and work in the lab, Towards the end of that fall semester of 2012, when I actually got a job as an X-ray tech as well. So I was training and doing that as well as prepping for labs, and then, of course, doing night classes. So that makes it for a very long day. And what I really liked about Metro State is that, they really cater towards people that work full time during the day, as well as people that, that have families to take care of. So it worked really well for me because then I can go to work and then go straight to class right after. So I was able to do both. I didn't have to sacrifice like, oh, I guess I'll just have to work now because I don't have time to go during the day to go to classes. Vice versa, I can't work now because I have to take classes during the day, like some more traditional schools. And so for Metro State, it was just the ideal place to go because, they take my credits from my X-ray program that a lot of schools don't take. Their schedule works with my work schedule. Plus, now I was working there in the lab. I guess what I really enjoyed about the school was just the community, like my fellow classmates and the students, because you're all struggling through the same thing. Everybody has their own goals and their own, I guess, dreams that they want to do. And it's just kind of fun and also inspiring to hear what everyone else is doing. Like, oh, why are you taking this class? Why are you trying to get this degree? And it's just nice to be around people that kind of have that same kind of mindset and also the motivation, I guess, to help you go through school as well. Because at least for me, going through the school and going to classes and working, everything just kind of becomes automatic, like kind of, you're just going through the motions is what it seems like, And after a while, you're like, is this even doing anything? Like, am I actually progressing on anything, But then with my classmates, it makes it a lot more of an enjoyable kind of experience. I think that's why I actually decided to also join the alumni board, is because, I just really liked the community. I really liked how everyone was kind of helping each other. And I kind of want to give back and help that same community again. For me, Metro State was really like a way for me to also show like my family and friends. And if I can get a degree, working a job as well, and going to school, anybody else can do it. It's another way to kind of inspire other people to do things that they don't think they could do as well.
My story is kind of similar to a lot of Metropolitan State University students. I was pretty active in high school, and I was never exposed to Metropolitan State University. I was more exposed to all of the other state universities and the U of M and things like that. They would like invite us for like sleepovers and like trips and things like that. I applied for like 5, I think, or 7 universities, and I got into like 5. Out of all of the 5, I decided to go to St. Catherine University because I felt like it was a really small campus and their average class size was like 25 to 27. And I was like, I'll have more time with my faculty professor. I could ask questions after class. Even though I had scholarships and things like that, it was still outside of my budget and my family's budget. And so my first year, I kind of started getting a little concerned. And then my second year at St. Kate's, I was like, oh my God, by the time I graduate, I'm going to be in so much debt and, I'll be taking out a lot of loans and things like that. So I started frantically looking at affordable schools that I can transfer to. During my research, I came across Metropolitan State University, and I was like, I've never heard of this place. So I decided to enroll in Metro, and I didn't know anything about the school, and was able to find like a on-campus job at the Institute for Community Engagement Scholarship. Monday through Friday, I would work at the school or university, and then Saturday, Sunday, I would work at my other job. But I was really glad that I made the decision to come to Metro because it was so affordable. I didn't really have to worry much about paying for my books or my tuition versus paying for my rent and things like that. Even though I was exhausted, I was like a full-time student and working 2 different jobs. I was just so curious to know why there wasn't a place where students can just hang out and like get to know each other and things like that. I feel like every time we get out of class, students like disappear. They go back, they leave campus and the campus is like super empty. And so they're like, well, you can join Student Senate and, maybe you can advocate for a space for students to call their own. And the following semester I did, run for Student Senate, and we recruited like different students from like different colleges and like, did student focus groups and try to gather, the ideas that they wanted incorporated in a student center. So I graduated. Other students at the student center took on administration, moved forward with it. As the oldest in my family, I felt like I struggled so much figuring out about FAFSA and how to do that and all that good stuff. So I just wanted to like give back to the community, and especially immigrant families or first generation students. That's pretty much my history here at Metro State. It will continue, but I really do have a deep appreciation for Metropolitan State University and the people who, established this university for working parents and immigrants. And, it's a very welcoming environment. And I know we have a lot of work to do to make it more special, but I think we're on the right track.
I was transferred from Minneapolis Community and Technical College. I studied gender studies. In fact, I've changed my major twice. Dana Blocker was my academic advisor. She was really the best. One day I approached her and I said, hey, I've been here for so long. I don't really feel like continuing. I want to be able to graduate. What options do I have? And she said, actually, you could have your, gender studies and with the creative writing in minors. And that's when we agreed. And I was able to graduate in spring 2010. It was really amazing. Metro State felt like a kind of a, part of a family. And we were like a kind of small family that kind of rely on each other, supporting each other. And, connecting with other students that were immigrants and refugees. It really didn't feel like I, was away from home or people that I knew when I was at Metro. And that was an amazing experience. And even later on, actually, similar people that I knew felt the same experience when they were at Metro. And that's one of the greatest feelings to have. And being an immigrant and refugee at the same time, it creates really challenging to find a way to fit in. But for me, it was just amazing. I felt at home. I felt I belonged there. I started my consulting agency, and I was doing that from 2012 after I graduated till 2014. And then I traveled to Somalia as a Minister of Women Development and Family Affairs in Puntland region. So I went there to serve my community for 3.5 years, where I established policies pertaining to women and children, gender development and gender and equality. And of course, I feel the women's studies, gender studies, the creative writing. I've gained experience in Metro and being connected to different women that were leaders and advisors and teachers really honed my skills and visions. So I'd say Metro State had really prepared me. And I hope that that environment still exists, and it's something that others can really feel the same way and take advantage of. And it's, I believe, a blessing. Metro will always be part of me, and it will always be one of the best stories I'll be telling, not just to my children, but my community members, my friends, and people who already know me. And the good thing about Metro State and the people I came to know is that we stay in touch. It's, a school that you would definitely feel at home.
One of the things I heard you all talk about was the role of your families and kind of either what you saw driving around the east side of St. Paul as a kid, how you learned to look at higher ed as a kid, if you have any memories of what you thought about college, what it was, what it should be, was it for you? What were your family's expectations around higher ed?
My parents were from Laos, from a war-torn country, and they came to the United States, and actually they both got their degrees. My mom actually got her 4-year degree at National American University, and then she actually did some graduate courses here at Metropolitan State University also. And my father got his 2-year degree down in DMAC, which is Des Moines Area Community College down in Iowa. And so ever since I could remember, my parents would always stress education is important. Growing up, my dad always said, you need to get a college degree so you could go somewhere in life. It took a long time for me to get my undergraduate degree because, like, in the same boat, I was working, and I would be honest, right? You're an 18, 19-year-old kid, you're making a little bit of money, school goes in the back burner. Coming to Metro for me actually helped out a lot because you get to meet people from all walks of life. And like Lucky said, your classmates are all motivated people. They're either there because they want to finish their degree. They're motivated. And so that really helped me push through my undergraduate degree, because I was like, there's people here that are like 60, 65 years old. They come back to Metro State and they get their degree. I'm this young kid. I should be able to do it because I still have the energy to complete that. I think any Hmong person would tell you that anybody during that time in Laos who had education was always in an elevated status. And so that kind of like resounded all the way when I think a lot of the Hmong folks came as refugees to the United States, that, education is very important and it's going to take you somewhere. And I feel like that has done something for me. I'm able to get to work as an IT systems analyst. I'm able to do things that, if I didn't have education, I wouldn't be in the same situation that I'm in. And, I'm thankful for Metropolitan State for giving me the opportunity.
My parents, they always pushed education. My parents were refugees as well. My family's pretty big. I got 6 sisters and 4 brothers. My older siblings, I think my parents kind of were hoping they're going to be the ones to be the leaders and to show the family that, the older siblings can do it. The younger siblings can kind of look up to them and follow in their footsteps. So everyone was kind of trying their best to, get some sort of degree. And of course, when my older siblings were all going to school, I'm like, well, I guess I better go too. And I tried that right after high school. Didn't work out as well as I thought it would. Kind of like what Kee mentioned too. Like, yeah, you're working, you're making money. It's like, well, why am I going to go to school when I'm making money already? I do one thing and I make money and results right away, With school, there's no results right away. You gotta, it's a long-term investment. You really gotta push through, I actually applied at North Hennepin Community College, out of high school. Went there for one semester, dropped out, went the next semester, and then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I just started working instead. And then after about working for like 5 to 6 years, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm stuck. Now what am I going to do? Right. And I'm like, well, maybe I could try that school thing again. Because, you always hear about that. Everybody always gives it the good old college try. Right. And I'm like, well, I did that, but maybe I can actually complete it instead of just trying. Right. And this time I actually, focused on more of what I wanted to do, what my interests were. Because before I'm just like, I just got to go get my general courses or something, get an associate's degree of some sort. After my older siblings and everybody else has, gotten some degrees, and most of them actually aren't actually using their degrees. For me, I'm pretty fortunate that I got a position where I'm actually applying my degree. It worked out pretty well with actually both my degrees when I got an X-ray and chemistry. Like my parents as refugees, when they come to the United States, they're just told, oh, school's good. Send your kids to school. But they're not told of like what kind of jobs are available for what kind of degrees. They don't know about the programs and certain kind of like places and people that can help guide your kids to find, I guess, their niche, their kind of interests. And so that's why I feel like a lot of my older siblings, they were just kind of forced to just go because my parents, said, go to school, get a college degree. But for me, because of my break that I had of, a couple of years of working, I was able to like sit back and think and focus on, okay, so what do I actually want? What do I actually like doing? I looked at, just like statistics and things like that. Like if you get some sort of college degree, you just have more opportunities, and it's up to you if you want to take those opportunities or not. But yeah, just in general, I just feel that a lot of immigrants and a lot of, especially refugees that come here, they always put pride in education and put it as a priority.
So my mom used to be a nurse before the civil war in Somalia. Me and my mom were very close, and I feel like she's a role model to me because when we came here, she obviously couldn't use her degree. She went back to school. Like, she didn't know English at all. She would tell us, education is important. As you can see, I wouldn't have this job if I didn't go through that rigorous program. So I expect you guys to prepare yourselves for your adult lives. She would motivate us to do whatever it took to give us a good educational experience. Even though she used to work night shifts, my mom would always come to my teacher conferences during the day. I think she role modeled what she expected of us. So I was naturally just motivated to do well in school. And, when you're an immigrant student, you're always feeling like maybe you don't know as much. Like, you're constantly trying to learn as much as you can about every subject in class because you're just like, well, did I miss something? Am I going to fail the class? So there's this extra pressure on you. I think that also motivated me to do really well in school. But unfortunately, when it comes to like higher education, like it's harder for them to like give you full support, like kind of help you navigate the system and things like that because they don't know themselves. And so, yeah, they can verbally say, you have to go to university. This is good for you and good for your education. But then you don't have that extra support. I definitely resonate with that whole immigrant family and, them pushing you to do well in school and like prepare yourself for your adult life. And I think for my mom, like she would always say, do something that you love to do or something that makes you happy. And the money will come.
I'd like next, if we can talk about the diversity of the student body at Metro State. So, Kee, you said it was really important to your experience, and Lucky and Awa, you both have experience at other schools. And so I'm interested if the diversity at Metro feels different to the two of you from Century or St. Kate's? And if it did, does it make a difference in how your college experience went?
I think for me, when I went to Century, it was a community college, but then it's a school that mostly took students straight from high school, is what I noticed. So there's a lot of younger people there. They're pretty diverse there as well for the community. But I noticed one thing when I started going to Metro was the difference in, like, besides, ethnicity and things like that, the difference in age range. And for me at the time, I could be sitting in class and right next to me there's a, fresh high school graduate, just so much inspiration in their eyes. And, they don't have the struggle of, like, we live part of our life where we're like, good luck, this is just the beginning. and then somebody right next to me, is like 65 years old, just getting back in also. And they had those same eyes too. And I'm like, oh man, I'm between these two, I'm not going to make it, but yeah, I do see a different demographic, totally different kind of atmosphere. At Century, it's more of a younger kind of culture, I guess, compared to over at Metro State. It kind of seems more professional to me. There's a lot of people that work full time and have families, and so they know the struggle's real,
In the MMIS, the Masters of Management Information Systems, I had a classmate where she just had a baby like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and she showed up to class right away. And even the professor was like, are you sure you're all right to come out here? You should be resting. And she's just like, no, I have to be here, because that was kind of like the capstone for our class. She's like, I have to be here. I got to make sure I pass my degree too. And so, just to add on to what you said, Lucky, Metropolitan State is just not diverse in ethnicity or race, but it's diverse in professional levels. And that's an experience that, I go back on that you can't get anywhere else. Your classmates to presidents of companies, your classmates to senior level executive positions, your classmates to, associate positions. But these are like things that are valuable to you in the professional development, because they allow you to communicate, right? You're communicating with your classmates, and they're communicating back to you. And not only that, you're sharing ideas, and you're taking, you're sharing knowledge with them. There's a reason why they're a president or they're in a senior position. And so you can take those information, you can take their knowledge, you can pick their brains, and they can also pick your brains. Just kind of like, okay, maybe they're a little older, so they're in a position, but they're interested in what we see as a younger classmate. That what ideas do we have that they can incorporate? And so these are the things that I think so great about Metropolitan State University, is that it's diverse, just not in the racial ethnicity, but it's diverse in the age group. It's diverse in the levels of positions, in the hierarchy of positions at a professional level too.
I would say the diversity at Metro really does enrich our overall education. In one of my undergrad classes, I was taking a genetics class, and we had a lawyer who was also taking the class, and we were just like, why are you taking this class? And so she was talking about how this relates to her field, and you never would imagine that a lawyer would be interested in genetics or, genomics and things like that. And so it kind of gives the students a broader understanding of how they could apply their college education. Just because you're an undergraduate biology student or chemistry student doesn't mean you have to go to grad school to become a doctor or a veg scientist or, but there's all these other fields that could, indirectly or directly apply to your degree. Having people that have experience in the working world come into your class and take classes with you also bring that layer of enrichment in your education, I feel like.
Yeah, and just adding on, I think at Metropolitan State, every student has their own unique story, and that's what makes Metro State really nice. is that each student, they bring their own different story. And if you add that up, it makes for a really good product.
The fellow classmates are, people that have been out in the field, they have careers, they have jobs already. And I believe we had like some sort of group project, and two of the students, they actually work for two competing different companies. They knew the same topics and stuff like that, but they're like, okay, yeah, so I can't really tell you this because this is trade secrets and you're a competitor, that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting to see, and it's like the dynamic of like how that is. It's like, yes, we're students and we want to share each other like with knowledge and information and stuff like that. But then you're also like, okay, well, I also have a job, and I gotta make sure I'm representing my workplace as well. At Metro State, like we said, like everybody kind of has their own story. Somebody can be fresh from high school, and somebody can be, even just retired, and they just want to take some classes to learn about a topic more. And they could have a lifetime of experience. And just when you finally just sit down and, chat with one of your classmates, you find so much more things more interesting, I guess, at Metro State. There's just so much more variety.
And, just a small add-on. In one of my classes, I remember way back, probably 10 years ago, I had a retired chief of police come in and be my classmate. And, and in my thing, I'm like, wow, you're retired already and you should be enjoying life. Well, I guess some people really do enjoy education, and that's where Metro State's slogan of was it. It's where life and learning meets, right? They really love their education. And that's what we all been saying is really motivates you to become a better student too, as a younger person coming into the university.
Comparing my experience at St. Kate's, St. Kate's is a really great school, but I felt like I was like super shy, like the first 2 years of my education. And then once I transferred over to Metro, I kind of like came out of my shell, I guess. Only because like at Metro, like faculty professors like really do want you to participate, and they push you to participate, and they put you in like teamwork. I felt like more motivated. I felt be more friendly towards people and not like be closed off, because I felt like people were sharing their life stories, and I'm like, oh, that sounds similar to my life story, I really did appreciate the diversity at Metro State compared to like my experience at St. Kate's.
What are some of the ways that you learned about your classmates' stories? You mentioned classroom, group projects. What facilitated building those relationships for you guys?
Well, for me, it was a lot of group projects. Everybody hates group projects, let's be honest. In those group projects, though, that's when you actually get to kind of goof around and like get to know each other, and then you get creative also. I know for me, several times we would meet outside of school just to hang out, just not talk about school at all and just have fun. Some of the classes were just so difficult and hard that you kind of have to have study groups. And I think because of that too, you kind of build that relationship of, we're all struggling the same way through the classes. We're all like fresh. We're all in it together. And so I think that's how we kind of build that relationship in the beginning.
So for me, I think what really fosters these relationships is the small class sizes that Metropolitan State has. It's like you become to know them, right? It's just like going to elementary school. You have like maybe 20 to 30 kids. You know each of them all by name. And comparing to like my sister's experience at the U of M, her classroom was like 200 to 300 people, right? They're sitting in an auditorium doing their class, and there's no like relationship building, because you might be sitting to somebody different than the next time you come back into class. And so at Metro State, the small class sizes that they offer for me is how I build these relationships, is because, the first day you get an introduction. It's just like how we introduce ourselves, hey, like I said, they kind of have the same story as I do, And so maybe after class or during break, I'll catch them and say, hey, how's it going? And that's how you build a relationship, because it's such a small class size that, you need to cheer on each other. It's like a support system for each other. Just look at, an example, some of my master's classes, my graduate courses, you have about 10 to 12 people, so you need to like really help each other to succeed. And it just fosters these relationships with the class sizes at Metropolitan State University.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the drawing factors for me towards Metro was the small classes that they advertised. That small classroom and faculty members, being masters at facilitating and putting students in groups is really what drives that relationship building. I still have a relationship with my undergraduate organic chemistry lab partner. We still talk. I mean, he's in, Arkansas now and applying for med school, and I'm here in Metro, at Metro in Minnesota, and we're constantly, texting each other, hey, what are you up to? And the thing I love about Metro State is, like, when students don't understand something, somebody can just run off and go to their office and be like, hey, we're working on this as a group. We don't understand it. Can you explain it to us? And they would, always say, of course, and be open to that. So I really love that part about it. Just the students having relationship, but also having a relationship with their faculty is, I think, something that's unique to Metro.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, if you ever have any issues, all the professors, they always have office hours. You can go and ask them questions, or you can, if you want, you can schedule time as well. So it makes it very convenient. Like you said, you can have a group of people just go like, hey, we don't get this. Can you show us again? It's a lot easier than, like, I guess, larger schools where they would have not even the professor. It would be like a teacher's assistant or something that you'd have to deal with instead. At Metro State, you get more of that in-person connection with the instructors.
The next question I'd like to put to the four of you for conversation is, how do you see the immigrant and refugee communities shaping Metro? So we've talked a lot about your experiences and how Metro shaped you in some ways, but how is the relationship going in the other way? I mean it as pretty broad, because I'm not a student, I'm not an alumna. So I'm curious about how you have experienced and seen your communities and your language, your traditions showing up at Metro, and how that maybe has shaped the institution itself.
This is Anissa. I think at Metro, because you're studying in the English language, you're striving to do your best in learning the language and excel, not just writing, but communicating and presenting yourself in a manner that others will understand. But I also feel that there were a lot of immigrants and refugees and also international students that really felt like an outsider of Metro. And it's not something solely that's just for Metro State, but for all schools. The immigrant and refugee students don't really have sort of an orientation or people thinking about the kind of out of place feeling they might have. And my experience was different, because I was already being supported by friends, by people that went to Metro State before me, or my family. And it was just a kind of natural for me to just expect that, because I had this support system already. It wasn't really necessary. But I've also met and saw people that were really extremely felt out of place. People that felt maybe it wasn't time for them to study until they felt they were prepared enough. And I felt that what Metro State could really do is to be able to engage and have somebody that they can talk to, because sometimes they don't know how to verbalize if the person don't look like them or don't speak their language. That kind of out of place feeling is not good for anybody, despite their immigration status or when they come to the country or what they're trying to achieve. And equally, these students are very smart and very successful, but at the end of the day, I see there's something that Metro State can do to help them feel included.
Obviously content and everything will be delivered in English. But I felt like over the years, Metro State has changed. Mainly, I've noticed from the time that I was researching about schools to now, like, I feel like Metro State is now more, when you look at the boards, when you look at, our flyers, our marketing things that are going out there in the community are more diverse, and it includes people of all walks of life. It includes immigrant communities, first-generation students. If you walk through our Founders Hall, the first time you walk through Founders Hall and you're going to Gateway, which is typically the route that first-time students take, you're welcomed by this board with like all these different faces, and then there's like languages, like different languages written under those pictures, and then and all of them are communicating and saying welcome. And so I feel like Metro State, in a way, has been impacted by the community, immigrant communities and first-generation students that have been coming through the doors, and it's slowly showing institutionally. Also, we have all these multicultural advisors as well nowadays that are helping students from different backgrounds get into Metro State and help them navigate the system and things like that. And I feel like if we can enhance those support systems for students, we'll go a long way. And I do agree with Anissa, having people that represent the community, hiring them and having those people work at the university truly have a greater impact.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on campus, but from when I first started there, yeah, they do have a lot more, decor in the hallways that represent more of the community now. When they first opened the student center, and then they found a vendor, and I think they had really diverse kind of foods. I think the community itself, at least the student body itself, was like, okay, yeah, we want diverse foods. So for me, I feel that if they do anything that they want to represent, the community, or have like little kind of events going on, they should do it like before and after class, because before people are going there so that, they might get there early, 15, 30 minutes early, they'll sit around and wait. At least then they get to go to the event before they go to class. And if right after they get out of class, if you have an event or something going on, then they can enjoy that before they go home or go to work. I feel if we can do more things that, relate with the community and have community groups go there and use the space, be exposed to the school, I think it'll entice more people to kind of go there.
Yeah, and just to add in to Lucky, the tough part is, because I actually was part of the Metro Analytics Club officers, and the tough part is that Metro State students are mostly working adults. And so when they're coming into campus, they're leaving their 5 o'clock job, trying to make sure they get to their 6 o'clock classwork. And so a lot of the things, those are some of the things that we face, when we were scheduling events. It's like, okay, we have a meeting here, but it has to be 30 minutes before class starts only. And even then, where you had like the group of like 30, you only get 2 to show up. Because someone's like, oh, I have to bus to there and I can't get in on time, or, I'm just about leaving work now and I can't make it there on time. And so those are some of the things that I think Metro State students faces, and those are some of the challenges that we need to see. How do we break that? Metropolitan State University is in a prime location, right, at the heart of the St. Paul. And so if you ever drive by that area, you see there's a lot of, I know there's like a Mexican ice cream shop there. They have like an African beauty hair store there. There's Asian stores there. So it's a very diverse community where Metropolitan State exists in the St. Paul campus. So let's have an event there let's call the community and bring everybody together and just use, and not only does it bolster Metropolitan State's image, but it brings people of all color to the community together to enjoy something.
Yeah, and I do want to mention you get a great view of downtown from there. Especially when the sun is setting, it's like, wow.
It's a good date location.
That looks pretty nice,
What would you all tell your younger self, or tell somebody who is currently thinking about college, and maybe they're not younger, right? Maybe, like you said, they are the 65-year-old retiree who's deciding to finish their degree. What would you tell a future student or your younger self?
Let's see. For me, I would say, kind of what Anissa kind of mentioned was, yes, follow your passions, but you also got to make sure you're doing something that puts bread on the table. So for me, kind of advice to myself and for students is do your research on first, what kind of job do you want to do? Maybe even shadow someone. And then after that, then figure out, okay, now what degree do I need to get to that job?
Yeah, for me, I'd say for a younger me, set a goal for yourself. I think like a goal that motivates you. For me back then, it's like, okay, I'm going to school. I'm going to get my degree. But there's going to be a breaking points in your studies, in your education path, where you feel like, I'm sure we've all been through, like, is this for me? Like, can I really do this? Well, if you have a goal that you set, let's say, a lot of the students at Metropolitan State say they're doing it for their kids. They're doing it for their family. And so they're reminded constantly, no matter what, they got to succeed. And that's like a goal that you need to have as a student, whether you're older or whether you're incoming freshman. I think my advice is set a goal for yourself. When you find yourself struggling and wanting to leave, think about your goal. It's going to motivate you to get to where you want to be. And, like for me, it's kind of the same thing, right? It took me 11 years to finish my bachelor's degree. It finally clicked and finally said, here's my goal. This is what I'm going to do. And every time I felt like I wasn't going to make it, I think back about that goal and I say, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm doing this. And that's going to help you accomplish and get to where you want to be.
As younger adolescents, we think too much about the future, what it's going to hold for us, what we're going to become. And on top of that, we have this extra anxiety from our families. So I would tell my younger self not to worry. And financing your college education is very important. I really didn't know that when I was younger. Little did I know how expensive school is and how that induced so much anxiety in my life. I would tell my younger self to really look at the cost of tuition. If you wanted to get a biology degree or a chemistry degree, you don't need to go to Harvard or, some really expensive school. You can just go to your local community college and continue your education that way and get an affordable degree with the same quality education. And I think that's something Metropolitan State University offers to our communities, and we need to really advocate for that and say, yeah, we don't have a lot of money as immigrant communities and first generation students, but there are affordable ways of getting your higher education, and you don't have to be so anxious about it. And
have mentors that guide you and what you want to study, and all the advice and ideas and comments made by by the students, the alumni, are really great. And I just thought about, at the time, I wasn't really a full-time worker. I was in between one job here, another job there, and I was able to go to school in the morning, sometimes in the evening, sometimes in the weekends. I would say have a mentor. And then the other thing is also to be aware of weaknesses and strengths. I'm the oldest of, my family, my siblings. I have, 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and, role model. And then, we lost everything when we left our country, and where I was born in Somalia. And, so there was no generational wealth that I was counting on. It was what I earned and what my family earned. And still, that was extremely hard. So, and then even by the time I had earned my master's, I wasn't able to find jobs. So systematic barriers right there on my face. And think about, that I was similar to the white kids that were my friends that thought, hey, after I graduate, I'm going to go on and do this. And yeah, because they have parents, they have relatives that have money, connections and systems and privilege, which I didn't understand at the time. I was just young and, naive. And because of that, many immigrants, refugees really struggle. And the other thing I would tell my younger self is that, it's your GPA that's going to be considered the most, since you don't have parents that are contributing or donating to the school that you go to, or people that are respected because of their, historical background and lineage and affiliation to the schools. So you are have no privilege at all. So therefore, it is your GPA. And at the time, I didn't really think about that. In fact, when I was earning my bachelor's, I went through divorce. I was a young mom, and I faced a lot of issues moving from one place to another place and making time for my, kids and my mom, and my dad died, and I was kind of like wearing different hats. I really never thought about that, but I was actually lucky to graduate with 2.0. I wasn't happy about that, but in fact, it created a lot of challenges for me. And with my master's, I made sure that I graduated at least with 3.75 GPA. And it made it very challenging for me to find a job, because if you don't know anybody and you're an immigrant or refugee, your name alone, forget about your skin color before you're seen, can really be a major disadvantage. And yes, Minnesota is a great place. It's very progressive, but the racism is just so subtle that it's so indirectly impacting you, and you can never know. And that was one of the reasons I thought, I'm going to start my own consulting and do what I want, rather than just begging people to hire you every day and just being rejected. And imagine, I remember before I graduated, I applied over 300 jobs. But definitely having mentors in your life, regardless of what your immigration status or what your needs are, whether you're wealthy or privileged or not, mentorship is extremely important. And that's what many youths really depresses them when they lack that, because then there's no guidance. But having mentorship, you have the guidance, you have the direction that you want to go to, and being aware of your strengths and weaknesses, then you can make better choices. And I feel that even though Metro State is extremely space for people like me, for many immigrants, refugees, for everybody to come together, and even working adults, although they might be young, but they have the need to work. And if there's a way to create mentorship, transitioning from graduation to having employment, to starting a career, that would be really great, because many times it's not about building resumes. It's not about, what to say and what the right thing to say and in an interview. It's about applying the skills. It's having the confidence. It's about making difference. It's about delivering. And also not only making yourself broad, but making yourself and showing off that, hey, I studied, at Metro State. If you come from Columbia or elsewhere, it's not, the name of the school, but what you've done and what the people in that school have done for you. And that's one thing I can say about Metro. I never felt that I, was lower or, than somebody else who went to Ivy League. But at the same time, lacking that mentorship really was a major disadvantage for me.
So I really want to thank everybody for joining us today and sharing your experience at Metro State and ideas. We're really lucky to have you all as part of the alumni community. And as we wrap up today, I just want to give you the opportunity to share anything else that we didn't cover or that you want to share with this community.
I just want to say that I really learned a lot from everyone that's been participating, and sharing your Metro State stories, and, hearing what you guys went through and all that good stuff, and seeing the similarities, and was very enriching conversation. I think moving forward, we should continue these dialogues with alumni, figure out ways that we could support our students. We all come from very challenging backgrounds, but I always, as my mom always said, it doesn't matter where you came from. It's what matters is where you're going. And so as an immigrant from Somalia, who, obviously every immigrant and refugee that comes to this country doesn't come with anything but the clothes on their backs, and, learning a new culture, a new language. It is challenging. The financial aspects of what our families and our parents go through is also challenging. But I think we should look forward to the future of where we're going. Yes, we're first generation, and I am extremely ambitious, I guess, and very looking forward to what the second generation will be accomplishing and what they will be doing, and knowing that we will be able to guide them through what we went through, and to guide them through the, educational system and our overall country here in America, I think is going to be valuable. And I think as alumni, we could continue that support and that mentorship and continue to represent Metro State in a good light, because clearly Metro State has done a lot of things for us that both positive and also pushed us to do better and to be better people. And to, I think the reason why we're so involved in our communities is because of Metro as well. Let's just be honest, because Metro is very much into community engagement. And I feel like we've taken that cultural part of Metro and incorporate it into our professional lives and also our personal lives, and continue to do that regardless of where we go in life. And so I look forward to that conversation continuing.
So yeah, it was a pleasure to be here and have a conversation with fellow alumni. I think Metro State should consider in the future using more alumni to help facilitate programs and for us, the students who are still taking the courses there at Metropolitan State University. What best way to learn than from students that's gone through the program and the university. So I hope we had more of these conversations in the future.
Yeah, I just want to, thank everyone for, having me here and involved as well. And I guess I just want to say one thing, kind of advice to anybody that's kind of listening to this is, be the person that you needed when you were growing up. And I know a lot of us, especially being first generation or refugees, again, there's that, you don't know anyone kind of thing. And so you don't really have that person to look up to, that mentor that we keep talking about. And so now that we've kind of gone through this whole process of growing up and going through the experiences, I think we all kind of fall into that saying is, be the person that you needed when you were growing up. So I just want to leave it with that.
I really want to thank you for having this dialogue, and because it's really important, and it's a way to also connect with communities we're from. I would say Metro State is in an excellent position today to really not only be inclusive state institution, but also to connect and reach out to their alumni. And this is an actually extra step of really doing that compared to the other schools. It's an amazing thing to have. And also, I'm just grateful for what I've gained from this school and the people that are working and you as a team and bringing us together to share our experience and, using our ideas and to be able to, apply that to help others. And I think Metro State can really be a role model for other schools, whether they're state institutions or not. And because it does really show actions speak louder than words, and show that the diversity, inclusivity, and helping everybody succeed. And that for me goes really far. And I'm just grateful. I just hope to see where I can contribute on a personal level and my expertise to be a role model to the other students currently in Metro State and others that will be coming in the future. So thank you, really. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Our first 50 years, Metropolitan State Oral History, is a limited scope oral history project made possible in part by the people of Minnesota through a grant funded by an appropriation to the Minnesota Historical Society from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Any views, findings, opinions, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent those of the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota Historical Society, the Minnesota Historic Resources Advisory Committee, or Metropolitan State University. We'd like to thank our participants and alumni for sharing their stories. These include Marsha Anderson, Leah Harvey, Jim Lukashevsky, Susan Rydell, Karen Sweet, Mel Henderson, Butch Kramer, Awo Ahmed, Anissa Hajimumin, Lucky Lee, Kee Yang, Joyce LeClaire, Danielle Abebe, Julia Eslinger, Jay Jaffe, Ocean Kalin, and partner Halil Lee of the Other Media Group. We would also like to thank Emily Seddon, Sai Chang, Christine Hansen, and Majed Mohammed for their technical and administrative support.